Hi, everyone who's joining. Thank you for anyone who's watching on Facebook. And if you'd like to join the webinar from Zoom, you are more than welcome to click on that join link to do so. And I will see you over here. If not, you can hang out on Facebook and I'll do my best to look at the Facebook chat and comments as we go. I'm on my own this time because we have our friends are out on planes heading towards me actually in Arizona because we have the Citizen Science Association conference coming up. So if you'd like to learn more about that, you can stay on and ask questions about it in due time. In the meantime, though, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So where I am, I'm going to show you our lovely, there you are. Okay, I'm going to share my screen so you can see my desktop. There we go. All right, so for anyone who doesn't know what this is, SciStarter Live is a weekly webinar we go through to say hello to the world and express our interest in different projects. And this time around, this is our first Encore episode, actually. So we're going to be doing an Encore for Neureka because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So if you're interested in learning how to play video games to help your own mental health and also to help research in mental health and understand yourself a little bit better, you are in the right place. And we'll talk through that through our recording that we did a while back ago. So let me just double check that we're sharing the right screen. Oh yeah, awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and click forward. So usually it's me as well as my two colleagues, Roland and Trevor. It's only me today, but they will be back next week helping me out with that one. If you are on the webinar, you can use the chat function or the Q&A. If you'd like to test out, you can go ahead and try out the chat. And otherwise, you can send your messages through either one that you'd like. We're going to skip through these because it is a Encore episode, so it's kind of a unique situation. But we will come back to this afterwards and talk through what's coming up next, but just sort of quick sneak peek there. And in the meantime, we'll switch gears to going through our previous event that was all about this. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you back to Anna, who talked about this last, oh gosh, I think it was in October. So get ready to listen. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share though, just to double check that I fixed the audio. Let's see. Share screen, share sound. There we go. Now it won't be an issue. Alrighty. Go ahead and hit play. It'll play until we can talk a little bit about what's happening next, and then I'll be back.
Okay, so just a little bit about citizen science in general. I know you all said you've participated in projects before. But that could mean a lot of things. So we'll still talk a little bit about citizen science broadly. So citizen science is just a collaboration between scientists and those of us who are curious, concerned, or motivated to make a difference. So it's a really great way for people to make an impact on issues they care about, and it's all through helping science. So if you haven't already, your first step in becoming a pro citizen scientist would be to join SciStarter. SciStarter is a research affiliate of Arizona State University. They host an active community of over 138,000 registered citizen scientists and have over 1,600 citizen science projects to choose from. So that sounds like a heck of a lot, but don't let that overwhelm you. It's pretty easy to narrow down what project you should participate in based on your interest and narrow down location and all sorts of other factors. So on your interest, if you want to create an account, you're just going to hit sign up on the top of the homepage. It'll prompt you with like a menu for personal information. And I will mention your zip code is optional, but if you put in your zip code, you'll get personalized recommendations for like your area, which is always cool. You'll get personalized recommendations when you're signing up. You can also check a box to get our email newsletter, which is also a fun way to find projects that we like extra. And this just comes out twice a month, the email newsletter. So once you're signed up, you'll be ready to start looking for projects. So the best way to find projects is to hop over to the project finder. That's one of the buttons on the header there on the homepage. So I also want to mention our first resource from SciStarter. So we have a free training on the foundations of citizen science. By training, we mean it's like an online module. It's self-guided. It's super easy, but it's very interesting and informative. So On SciStarter.org, we have several free trainings like this that will really just set you up for success in any citizen science project. So anyone can complete them. When you finish them, you get a personalized badge like the one pictured here, and it contains within it information that sort of proves you completed the training. You can share it, you can do whatever you want with it. And this foundations training is actually a prerequisite for some of the other ones. So this is a great place to start. If you're an educator, I don't think we had educators on the line, but in case anybody's watching this later, if you're an educator, trainings are a great resource for students. Your students can complete the training, are a great resource which includes participating in 2 projects to get them started. They can earn the badge, which they can send you as proof of completion. It's really great. So I will also mention, though, that that does require students to have an account on SciStarter, so they do have to provide an email address for that. Okay. Once you're done with that, like I mentioned, there are other trainings that are really cool. The 3 others are on data literacy. One is on libraries as community hubs for citizen science. And the last one is about citizen science in higher education. Okay, down to business. I am so excited today to talk about Neureka. I've been playing this for the past week in preparation for the game. It's kind of addicting. So how we're going to get started, if you want to follow along, you can head over to the Neureka project page on SciStarter.org. We're going to drop a link in the chat right now. Or if you're on the SciStarter homepage, you can literally just type Neureka into the little quick navigate bar on the top of your screen. Okay, I think I'm going to hand it over to Neureka here. Let me end my sharing. Doop. Doop. Okay.
Great, thank you. I'll just quickly try to share my screen. Just a second. Down. Okay, can you see it now? Perfect. Yeah, so hello again, everyone. I'll be introducing the Neureka project to you today, and I would like to start actually by introducing the team behind Neureka so that we know who we are, who's kind of working on the thing on your screens. This is the team. We are a team of researchers at the Trinity College Dublin in Ireland. We're called the Gillen Lab at the Global Brain Health Institute here. And there's quite a few researchers that we have, and we also have one sole brave developer implementing all the features that we come up with. And you can try to guess the PI on this picture. Our supervisor, Claire Gillen, she's actually here in the center. So she was kind of the founder of Neureka. Unfortunately, our developer is not pictured here, but as you can see, it's quite a large research team and just one developer guy. So this is us. And I will talk a bit about the context of why we're doing what we're doing for you, so that you get an idea of why to get involved at all and what you can achieve. So we're going to be talking about brain health today. And let me just briefly say that this event has mental health in its description, but I'll talk about brain health in a more general sense. So by that, I mean not only mental illnesses, but we also actually have quite a lot of features that focus on dementia risk factors and dementia prevention. So we'll be kind of tackling those 2 areas together, because that's what Neureka does. And today I'll first talk a bit about what we already know about brain health. So there's actually quite a bit that research has shown already. I'll also talk a bit about smartphone data and how we can have a digital revolution thanks to smartphones with regards to brain health research. And then finally, I'll also talk about how Neureka comes into play and how you can use it to play, learn, and track and help science that way. So firstly, poor brain health is quite common. So worldwide, we know that about 1 in 4 people actually develop a mental illness across their lifespan, at one point in their lifespan, and all ages are affected. So it's not just teenagers or just adults, but actually there's mental illnesses that people suffer from all over their lifespan. And we also have some estimates that actually show that about 1 in 5 people who are over 50 might be at the continuum of dementia. That means that they either might already have some symptoms of cognitive impairment, or they might actually go on to develop dementia later on in their lives. So problems with brain health are quite prevalent, and that is pretty scary. And at the same time, we also know that poor brain health is costly. So the WHO says that the leading cause of disability worldwide is depression. And we also know that the worldwide cost of depression is about $1 trillion per year. And a similar sum is the cost of dementia worldwide as well. So just to give you an example of what a trillion actually means. So a trillion is a million millions. So let's say that for $1 million you could buy a pretty nice apartment in San Francisco. And if you have 1 million millions, then you could buy such an apartment for every inhabitant of San Francisco for around 1 million people. So it's quite a large sum of money. At the same time, though, research has shown already quite a few ways in which we can help preserve our brain health and prevent some problems in the future. So research has, for example, shown or helped us estimate that up to 40% of all dementia cases could be either postponed or prevented if we modified certain risk factors in our life. So if we did some basic lifestyle changes. So for example, we know that about 8% of dementia cases could be attributed to hearing loss, 7% could be attributed to poor education, and about 5% actually could be attributed to something like smoking. So if we do things like encourage people to use hearing aids, if we provide primary and secondary education across the world, and if we help people stop smoking, then we could actually have cause quite a big impact across the world with regards to brain health. At the same time, the question is, how do we get this message out? So we know that there's a lot of things that people can change, but how do we get people all around the world to learn what they can do? So lastly, we also know that brain health research is challenging because brain health is a complex thing. There's a lot of things coming into play, like culture, genetics, the lifestyle that I already mentioned, social context, so a lot of different factors. And so the risk factors for poor brain health are actually quite hard to study because you don't have very specific effects. So it's not like you have a gene and therefore you're going to develop depression later on. It's much more fuzzy to study. We also know that all the different risk factors have usually quite small contribution to a risk of poor brain health. And we also know that the different factors interact with each other and change over time. So it's quite a complex set of relationships, and that makes it quite difficult to research. But at the same time, we know that big data could help us do this. So we need a lot of data to study those relationships, and we need a lot of data also at an individual level. So this is actually where our lab had a Neureka moment, as we call it. So what if we could actually use the devices that are already in the pockets of people all around the world to study brain health? We could do a digital revolution with smartphone-based research. And this is useful for several reasons. So firstly, using smartphones, we can quite easily get really large samples of people, a lot of participants helping us with our research, which wouldn't be very feasible if we did in-lab studies. Second, we also can achieve a greater breadth of data, so we can quite easily ask people about a lot of different factors. And this data can also be have greater depth, and by that I mean that we can actually test people over time or assess their brain health over time much more easily than if we had to invite them to come to university over and over to do some research. And lastly, we can also actually turn this into a two-way relationship and give insights back to you, the citizen scientists. And that is insights about your own well-being, but also insights about the things that you can change in your life to increase your chances at long-term brain health. So let's talk about who's already using Neureka and who actually Neureka is for. So this smartphone application is freely available to download for iOS and Android. So the only limitation is that you should be using a smartphone, not a tablet, because it's not at the moment ready for tablets really. But anyone really can download Neureka and try it out. And we actually at the moment have a really wide age range of participants. We only use data from people over 18, but there's people of up to 100 years of age, and we have about half of our participants are actually over 40. So it's not just some youngsters on their phones, but it's really an app for everyone. And at the same time, we also have participants from over 120 countries from all over the world. You can see all the countries in green in this picture. And to this day, we've had over 17,000 citizen scientists in Neureka whose data we were able to use. So that's quite a lot of people. And we're really happy to have so many. And at the same time, we're still looking for more. So let me now talk about how you can help us. So basically, when you download the app, there's a lot of different science challenges that you can complete within it. And everything that you feed into the app, every minute that you spend playing or learning or tracking helps us move the needle forward on the research of brain health. So every interaction that you have with the app is really useful. And there's different ways that you can interact with the app. So firstly, I'll talk about playing. So there's actually quite a few mini games in the app, and I'll show you some examples. So for example, here, this is Memory Match, which is a game in which you have to memorize symbols and then pick them from a grid and try to get as many correct as you can. So this is a test of your short-term memory. And we also have another game here. This is my personal favorite, that's Cannon Blast, in which you take over a cannon and try to shoot your balls towards this diamond here and try to hit the diamond and get points that way. And this is actually a way to assess decision making, how you make decisions in complex situations. And then another example of a game that I have here is Star Racer. And in Star Racer, you just have to tap stars in ascending order. And this is a measure of your processing speed. And the interesting thing about all these games is that they're actually based on existing tasks that psychologists have been using to assess brain health. So usually those would be either tasks that people do at a computer, or it would be tasks that you can do with a pen and paper. But we try to make them much more fun and engaging. And at the same time, they're also a bit shorter, so much more easier to do. So for example, when you're waiting in a queue or waiting for the bus or just bored at home, this is definitely something that you can do. And another really important thing is that we also have a set of questionnaires about different topics, such as demographics or health or your attitudes towards things. And we can then use the data from these questionnaires and link it with your performance on the games. And this way we can learn about the characteristics of people who play the games and for example, we can see how performance on the games is related to those different characteristics, such as here is an example with memory match. So that was the first game that I showed you, the one with memory. We have been able to see that better memory measured with memory match was linked to better hearing, less smoking, and higher education, which are the risk factors that I have shown you earlier. So we are so far replicating findings from previous research, which is very important, but at the same time, as a next step, we'll be able to look at those very interesting relationships of the different risk factors. So that's really exciting. Then the next thing that you can do with Neureka is actually to also learn something useful for yourself. So we have a set of science challenges within Neureka, which are more about educating our users. And so, for example, the first one, Maintain Your Brain, is basically a quiz in which you can learn new stuff about how you can decrease your risk of dementia and how you can preserve your brain health. So we always get feedback and learn new stuff. And then the other challenge that I will point out is read all about it. So there's some crazy fake news and misinformation out there, especially in the science world. And we just want to teach you to be science savvy. And you can learn that with read all about it, because will help you understand a bit better how to understand a bit better when some research findings are presented in newspapers, for example. They might actually so we just want to help you understand research findings. Period. And then another part that we have, another challenge that we have is Remember This, where you can learn about Alzheimer's disease and dementia generally. So that's also very interesting if you would like to learn more about those disorders. So then lastly, you can also use Neureka for self-tracking to help you learn insights about your own behaviors and mood, and at the same time still help move science forward. So we have a set of challenges that enable you to monitor your mood or your cognition or your habits, and then also to track changes in those things over time. So for example, multi-mood here, this is a challenge in which you're given a really short mood questionnaire twice a day for, I think it's 6 weeks. And you can then actually get a personalized graph that will show you how your symptoms or how your mood is changing over time. And this can be very informative for yourself if you want to learn about what impacts your mood or how it fluctuates. And then we also have another challenge, which is called Brain Changer. This one looks about how mood is related to your thinking abilities. And then lastly, we have Pattern Wise as well, which is very useful for tracking habits, such as phone checking, etc. So I've mentioned tracking, so maybe a question that can pop up is what actually happens with your data and how do we handle privacy with Neureka? Let me first say that we are fully GDPR compliant. That is, we're compliant with the European data protection laws, which are pretty strict. So you have the chance to opt out from participating in research at any point, or opt out from email communication, and even erase your data, download your data. And your data is not going to be shared with anyone else in an unidentifiable format. So because we want to publish the findings of our research, we do publish our studies together with data, but this data is always in a non-identifiable format again. If you, however, have any questions or concerns about this, feel free to reach out. And we have this email address here, admin That's neureka.ie. But we also have a Twitter account and a website with a blog where we're trying to share our findings or what we're working on. So if you're interested to learn more, feel free to hop on that website or on the Twitter account and check it out. And yeah, so there's 2 more slides that I have. So firstly, Neureka is a really promising tool both for the clinic potentially and also for research. So the great thing that it can improve self-management by increasing insight and awareness, and it can give you a reliable overview of your own well-being, but also teach you a bit about what you can do to preserve your brain health in the long term. Tools like Neureka could also one day enable to predict and detect who is at an increased risk of poor brain health, which is useful for prevention interventions. And ultimately, research using Neureka will inform public health policies and help us improve brain health globally. So that's kind of the long-term goal that we have regarding our research findings. And I would also like to briefly talk about the next steps and what we have planned for Neureka for the future. So we continue on improving the technology and developing it further. We have a new science challenge coming up early next year, hopefully, and we definitely won't stop there. So there's new science coming into Neureka, and it's meant as a platform for a lot of different research in the future. Another thing that's quite important for us is to engage other researchers. So this application is open access. That means that other researchers, if they wish, they could use the application for their own studies, to use it as a way to assess brain health. And we are also linking our work with other studies. So for example, some other researchers would like to use Neureka as an add-on thing in their research. So that's definitely also possible. And lastly, we're also trying to get a bit more global. So our next destination is going to be Latin America. We actually started this September on localizing Neureka to Spanish, because it's very important to also look at some non-Westernized, non-European populations when we do research. And yeah, so that's the plan. And I think that's all that I have here. I think I'm gonna hand the word over to Anna again, the other Anna, if I manage to unshare my screen.
Awesome, thank you so much. Well, I just have a little more fun for you. I'll share my screen again. There's my puppy again. Okay, so wait a minute.
Ooh, actually, Anna, if you go back to that slide really quick, the affiliation one.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to move it.
For anyone who's looking at this app and thinking, okay, this is super cool, I want to get involved, it's tracked through SciStarter too. So you can see how often you contribute to it, which is what this page explains for how to set up. So if you wanted to put it through your SciStarter account, you can do that as long as you use the exact same email address as your SciStarter account. So if any of you are thinking like, okay, I'm downloading right now, before you make the account, make sure it's the same email, because then you'll be able to see how often you participate and get credit for the work that you, or the data that you contribute. Awesome. All right, sorry, just wanted to mention that.
No, it's all good. Also, I heard a rumor that like right when you sign up for Neureka, it maybe doesn't show up right away, and that you have to like keep playing a little bit before it shows up. I did not test that, but just thought I'd mention that in case anybody runs into that. Also, I'll mention that SciStarter does not see your like Neureka data at all. Like SciStarter does not get the answers to your surveys about your mental health or anything like that. It's just like this person participated in Neureka and did a survey, played a game, whatever it is.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want it. Cool. So I just wanted to do a little walkthrough of Neureka, like what it was like for me going in as a first timer, figuring out how to do it. So let's go. So to get started, we already mentioned this, but I'll show you what it looks like. So this is the Neureka page on SciStarter. Neureka is a SciStarter affiliate, which just means that it will track your, SciStarter will track your participation, so you get credit on your dashboard. If you are looking at this page, all you need to do to get started is click on this blue Participate Web button. You might also get lost and find the regular Neureka project page, which is also totally fine to use. So projects that are not affiliates and projects that are affiliates all also have just a regular old project page. So you can also access Neureka through this, in which case you're going to hit the visit button, also a blue button, which is there on the left. So when you hit the blue button, it takes you to the Neureka homepage, which looks like this, super easy. So at this point, you're going to say, wait, Anna, I'm on my desktop. Sorry, you got to do this on your phone. So you can also just directly search for the Neureka app in your app store. That's what I did after I did this on the computer and thought, oh, shoot, I can't do this on my computer. And it's totally fine. It's a really fun app. It's worth having the app if you are even if you're a desktop computer person like me. Here's what it looks like in the Play Store. Just go ahead and download it. So logging into the app, I just gave it my SciStarter account email. It was super easy to sign up. And then I appreciated there was a bunch of pages that sort of explain like what the data is going to be used for, things like this. They'll never share my information, etc., etc. That's great. Love it. Thank you. There's also a note right in the app about how to get credit for SciStarter, which I loved. So there's a little more information about that pops up in the app. These are literally screenshots from the app. And then it just brings you to the Neureka app homepage once you're in. And it looks like this. If you scroll down, there's like a bunch of challenges. I was amazed that there were so many different things to choose from. At this point, I was like, well, what the heck am I supposed to do? But then I got an email in my inbox. Look at this. It said, hi, thanks for downloading Neureka, blah, 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 blah. Please do risk factors challenge first. So I really appreciated this direction because I was overwhelmed. I was like, do I just start at the beginning? Do I just click on the first one? Whatever. So I loved the email that was like, please do the risk factors one. If I go back, that was one of the first ones at the top. So let's do it. We can do risk factors. Thanks for clicking on your first science challenge. You're welcome, Neureka. This is all about helping researchers find new ways to detect dementia early. We'll play 3 games, which Anna already showed us, complete 10 questionnaires. I read that. I was like, oh, this is going to take forever. But it didn't take forever. It was pretty quick and painless. It was fun. The games were fun. The questionnaires were just like, did you have hearing loss? Which was easy to choose the answers. Anyway, I'll show you a little bit of this. So Star Racer, I think was actually my favorite game. I don't know. I liked the diamond shooter. I should have timed myself to see if it actually took me 6 minutes, but I was too engrossed. So when you click on a game for the first time, or maybe every time, it explains how to play pretty well. There's like a series of screens that are like, walk you through how to do it. So select the stars in order, 1, 2, 3, as fast as you can. Once you click on them, they turn pink, which is helpful so you don't lose your place. If it's incorrect, the star will turn red and shake. Also, if you're taking too long, the last one you clicked on will shake a little too. So it'll be like, the last one was 3, you're looking for 4, which was also a good reminder. It gets harder. This 1 through 8 is like easy peasy compared to how hard it actually gets. So it's fun. So one of the ways they make it harder is adding letters. So you have to go 1A, 2B, 3C, and so on, which is easy for those 3. But once you're on like G, you're like, Gee, 11. What number did I leave off on? Which is the point. That's like harder to keep track of where you left off. See how that could help test your brain function. I wanted to give you more screenshots from the game, but I'm like, it's timed. I'm not gonna waste my precious seconds on my screenshots. So anyway, you just get the introduction slides, but it's super fun. I like this game. I think I did. This was my score. I was going to be like, Anna, is this a good score? No, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I'm going to be like, oh no, Anna Funk's cognition is. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, something else I really like about the app is that once you're done playing a game, or I think filling out a survey, I can't remember, definitely on the games, it tells you what it does after you're done playing. So that was really fun for me. I know sometimes like sciencey games, you can be like, I don't see the connection between what this actually does. So it tells you what the game is actually assessing and why, which is super fun. I just wanted to show an example of what one of the surveys looked like too. This was the hearing survey. I want to ask more about the hearing and dementia connection later, because I have not heard of that as a risk factor. And even when I got this survey, I was like, I don't know what this has to do with anything. But anyway, really easy to answer questions. Almost all the surveys, it'll give you some sort of rating scale at the beginning, ask you a bunch of questions about your own experiences. It was pretty good. Memory Match was another game I played, which was definitely the hardest one. I don't know if it's the hardest for everyone, but man, the symbols, once you get like 3 symbols, it's like, I don't know. I found myself trying to think of like cheat phrases. Like I'd see this something like this. I'd be like blue star, purple N, or just like anything that could come to mind quickly to help me remember it. I felt like I was cheating, but I don't know. That's how I remembered it. Yeah, so then you have to pick them out. And sometimes you think you have it memorized, but then there's 5 other shapes that are close and you're like, oh, crud. So anyway, it was really fun, really hard. Now let's make things difficult. Oh, sure, thanks. 4 symbols, all different colors, was brutal, especially because, oh, I don't have the full spread. So then when you get your full spread that you're choosing from, like all 4 colors are there. There will be the same colors, but the different symbols there. So you have to remember which symbol was which color. It was hard. It was hard. It was fun. It was good. Felt like I was using my brain. Cool. The app was very encouraging. I liked all the shout outs. Gave me a medal when I was done. Yeah, that was about it. So I just wanted to show you like how cool and easy the app is to use. Did I not give you any questions, any pictures of the diamond shooter? The diamond shooter is really just, you just got to play it. What Anna showed us is all you need to know. But yeah, that one I think feels the most like it is a real game. Like it's not like this is research and we're pretending like it's a fun game, but it's not that anybody else does that. But the diamond shooter was like actually a fun game. Like I would totally just play that all the time. And now I do because I have the Neureka app. Okay. That is plenty of talking from me. I want to go back to Anna and have her answer some of your questions. I don't see any questions in the Q&A yet, so I will just ask my questions to start us off while you guys put your questions in. Can you tell us more, Anna, about the link between hearing loss and dementia? Why is that a connection?
Yeah, thanks for the question. That's a really interesting one. And actually, we don't know exactly what the mechanism is at the moment. We just know that people who have sensory impairments and who have hearing loss specifically are more likely to develop dementia later on. And we actually have some evidence that even like wearing hearing aids if you have a hearing impairment might be beneficial. But the problem is that we still don't understand the mechanisms, and there's some hypotheses about why this might be. So actually one of them is that it's when people have a hearing impairment which is not corrected, then people actually have fewer social interactions and become more isolated or potentially depressed. And that might actually be kind of have an indirect effect then on their brain health, because social interactions, as we know, are very important for aging people especially. And another hypothesis is that there might actually be some like parts of the brain that if they're impaired, they result both in brain problems like problems with thinking abilities, but also with they also might result in problems with hearing. So we don't know exactly yet, but there are some hypotheses about it. I actually might try to look at this as part of my PhD. I don't know yet.
Cool. What about the link between depression and dementia? Is that like a mechanistic brain link, or is that one affecting the other?
Yeah,
if you know.
Yeah, we know that there's a lot of comorbidity, so people with depression are more likely to have dementia and vice versa. But that's another thing where we do not have an exact answer as of now. So this is why you should try to do the risk factors challenge in Neureka and help us do this kind of research. But it's really like, yeah, it's not fully understood to this point. Yeah.
One more app question. So some of the challenges you can do over and over again, like the mood tracker, and some, like the risk factors, I'm guessing you only do once.
We actually recently introduced a feature where people can retake the risk factors, because we're inviting people to do that after 2 years, which is also really exciting to just see how the first assessment predicts your brain health at a later stage.
Yeah.
So that's an ongoing project. But yeah, I think I'm not really sure. I think some of the challenges, they should be, most of them should be a bit doable. Yeah. Not sure if all of them are though. I'm not sure myself. Yeah.
Okay. Just
sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. I was just trying to remember. Okay, cool. Emma, I know you had some questions.
I do. I also see one in the Q&A, so and
great.
It's related, so I wanted to bring that up as well. Trevor, thank you for sharing. Can you describe the process of creating the various games? What went into developing the games to yield accurate data? And my question that was tied to that one was, I just wanted to remember what you said about, I remember you said processing speed was the star racer one, and then I wasn't positive about the other, like how does memory, is memory like cognitive function? Just if you could explain those again, that would be awesome.
Okay. So starting with Trevor's question here. Yeah, thanks for that. So basically, I personally wasn't involved in developing the 3 games that I showed you, or any of the games whatsoever, but I see my friends or colleagues in the lab working on the games and developing new challenges. And it's a lot of back and forth with our developer, and we have a very kind designer who's helping us prepare, like design all those just make those beautiful designs and animations. And so I personally cannot tell much about how exactly that works, but what I can tell you about is that we obviously have to make sure that the games measure what we want them to measure, so we have to validate them. And for that, we always invite people to do, if the game is based on an original task, to do the original task, and also do the module or the game in the Neureka, and then we look at how their data correlates between those 2 things. So we have done validation studies of the existing tasks. That's very important to make sure that our games actually reflect, assess what we want them to assess. And coming to your question, Emma, So you were asking if I could go back to the different things that we measure with the games, or
Yes, please.
okay, yeah. So cognition, that's basically all different thinking abilities that you might have. So that's kind of like an umbrella term for all the things that you saw today. So it includes memory as well, and the other two games. And yeah, I don't know how much more I should say about it. There's a lot of different like things that fall under cognition, and yeah, each is assessed in a slightly different way. Even like if you go visit a psychologist, then they have different tests for those things. Another thing also, like with all those games, obviously you don't always use just one cognitive ability, just like one area of cognition. So for example, for memory match, where you were like, that was the memory test or memory game, you have to not only remember the shapes, but also be able to pay attention to the shapes when they appear and be able to quickly scan through some stimuli that you're being shown. So that's also like processing speed goes into that as well. But we know from studies that had people do a memory task like this one with other existing memory tasks, and that way we have been able to validate the tasks and make sure that they actually assess the specific areas. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm making sense at the moment, if I'm answering your question, but.
No, you're making total sense. I appreciate that. I am curious, so for the type of cognition that's assessed for the diamond canon, is that like logic related or?
Pardon? Logic related, you said?
Yeah, I'm just not sure how it's like, I wasn't, because it feels like a game. And so when you're playing it, you're like, what is this even assessing? I mean,
yeah. Yeah, so actually for this one, the thing is, when you're playing this game, you have basically, you have to choose what color of balls you shoot. Those can be either blue or pink. And there's some some of the balls explode before they actually reach the diamond. Oh yeah, thank you for showing that. That's perfect. Thanks for screen sharing. If you tap once more, it's going to show the animation, I think.
There you go.
Yeah. So on the right, for example, there's like, you can see that this one didn't explode before, but if you have a blue ball or purple ball, then it's more likely to explode at the moment. So it's basically about, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm explaining it correctly, but there's some probability linked to each of the two sides. And we're basically trying to assess how people evaluate those probabilities when they play the game. So for example, if you see that if you choose the right side balls all the time and you see that they explode before they even reach the diamond, then you should probably switch to the other side. So we're basically looking at how good people are at noticing those probabilities and working with them, if that makes sense. So it's quite a complex task, and it's about how people work with probabilities in complicated situations.
That's fascinating. I remember playing this game when I first tried, and definitely was one of those people who's like, directions, nah, skip. And
yeah.
And so I definitely messed it up, but it took me a while to figure out like, oh, there's definitely some, like, I should be choosing to switch. Like, when it took me a minute. So I don't know if I missed the directions or if that was the point. I'm just like terrible at identifying what probability is, which is highly likely, I won't lie. But it's one of those things where I'm just like, why is it breaking if it's this side? I don't understand.
Well, there's actually some research using a similar task that looked at how people are able to understand what they're supposed to do in the task without any instructions, and if that makes them better at it, or how that impacts their choices. So and this task is actually very interesting because it's also it seems to be like, we expect that people with impairments in a part of their brain that is called the hippocampus, which is related to memory, among others. So people who have impairments in this part of the brain have been shown to perform kind of differently on this task. I won't get into the details, but so this is really interesting because this area of the brain also is one of the first to go in dementia. So we see that this task might be really a new way to detect some very early impairment related to dementia. So yeah, that's why it's very fascinating.
I have so many questions that'll just take up so much time, and I will definitely be emailing you questions. For sake of time though, because we are at 11:50, or sorry, I'm on the wrong time zone. We're about 6 minutes out from an hour.
Nobody's on the same time zone here. It's fine.
Yeah, I saw in the chat someone is in Greece, so I'm assuming we're on all totally different. Welcome. Awesome. Okay, this is just, I love brain studies. Like, this is just so fascinating because it just opens up so many areas. Before this meeting, we were discussing how the second we bring up mental health or like brain related things, it brings up so many personal stories. And I'm going to use that as a segue real quick, just to get a little bit of information from you, just because we're so grateful that you came to join us. And we kind of want to know what's the deal? Why are you here? Like, why is this what you chose to be your studies, especially since it's tied to your PhD, like theoretically? I want to know and tell everyone else what brought you here.
Yeah, so I would say that the short answer is that I like brains, and I have been a fan of brains for quite a while during university, and I was like, yeah, it would be so cool to do something neuroscience related, and at the same time, I kind of really like working on research projects where I can see an impact. So something related to mental health or dementia or aging, and how can we make lives easier to people who suffer from mental illnesses or dementia, for example. So that's been like something that I find really interesting. And another area of my interest is how we actually can use smart technologies to advance this. So when I saw the project, the PhD project that was about Neureka and about basically a health tech tool that we can use to for brain health research, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. So I just went for it, and yeah, that's how I ended up here. In short.
Yeah, in short, I'm sure there's lots and lots that goes into decisions like this. So I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Simple. That's awesome. So for sake of time, I'm going to skip along. Assuming that this project completes all its goals and is like the optimal level of success, what do you think that the future would look like in a world where this does all of its roles that are proposed?
Yeah, so I see this as a kind of a proof of concept for the future, when I can imagine that if you, for example, want to assess your brain health, now worried either about your memory deteriorating, or you just want to, you have been feeling unwell and you want to go to therapy, we might actually implement the technologies around us to help us with those things, to assess our brain health in the first place. So I can imagine that we could just use a smartphone app to fill in a few questionnaires before we even seek out a clinician, and they'll be able to like recommend us the next steps, or even administer some treatment via a smartphone. And it's not so that I want people to be tied to the screens all the time, but I just think it's very practical to be able to do this kind of assessments remotely. So that's something that I hope is going to be the future. If everything works out. Yeah,
that's awesome. That also is one of those things that brings up a million questions to me, and I'm going to pause to make sure that doesn't happen. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Anna, I'll let you.
Awesome. Okay, well, we are almost out of time. So Anna, thank you so much for joining us today. We just have a couple announcements before we let y'all go. So I will share my screen again so I can remember my announcements are, so we have more upcoming
Alrighty. So before they go into those announcements from back in October, I'm going to switch gears so that you can hear the actual announcements for the most accurate timeline. So in order for that to happen, let me go ahead and share my screen with the page that you saw briefly right before all that. So next week, we actually have a switch to a Thursday event because we'll be doing a SciStarter Live from the CSci conference. The Citizen Science Association, along with a couple of organizations, are working together to set or to put on a conference that'll be the full week next week. So while we're there, and that's in Tempe, Arizona, we will have some interviews from one of the poster sessions. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be interesting to have that many people involved and in a loud area. So we'll see how it goes. On May 30th, the next week, we'll be talking about Ant Picnic in preparation for Memorial, or in your around Memorial Day, learning how to do about giving ants also a picnic while you also picnic during the summertime. So if you're looking for any updates for future events, you can go on to our blog that's listed right there. And that's really easy to find via the SciStarter.org website. So I'll go ahead and keep us moving and then sign us off. So as usual, we have 1,000,001 resources for you. So if you ever need assistance with citizen science related things, we can help you out with that through just emailing us, info@scistarter.org. You can ask the project leaders on their project pages. You can ask the community. You can take trainings. You can listen to our podcasts. And you can find your next project just by going to the project finder. So please utilize all these things, and we look forward to helping you out in the future if you do reach out. So all that said, I will have us go ahead and sign off a couple minutes early. Thanks for letting us do an encore this week while we prepare for next week's conference. It's sure to be a massive and fun event for all of us. So I look forward to that. All right. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week on Thursday.